Welcome to r/confessions, where we get to hear the most disturbing confessions. I wish my job was declared non-essential last year. I'm having quarantine hobby FOMO. I work for an insurance agency and we were declared essential businesses by the state. I still had to show up to work every day, do next to nothing, and try and find insurance to write. Really hard when all the other local businesses are not essential or open. I had to fight with people about their premiums and how they can't pay when they can't work. I had to fight with the company when they tried to take increased rates when no one had money. And all my friends and family who weren't essential, they learned new things. They read books and binge watched TV shows and movies they've always wanted to see. They had extra time to exercise and learn how to cook better, healthier meals. They got unemployment stipends to do these things. And my checks got smaller and smaller because I work on commission. I had to do more and more work for the same paychecks as before, and I didn't get to do any of the lazy things they did. I didn't learn anything new. I had even less free time. I wish I had a year's worth of time to just work on myself. I'm burned out, and work just keeps on coming. Now everyone's mad again because the company is still taking increased rates over last year's and people still have no money. Everyone's mad all around, and I didn't even get to learn to knit. I envy everyone who got laid off and had to stay home all year. Now for the next story. I got angry at my depressed fiance, and he killed himself the very next day. This all happened in the 90s, but honestly, it all feels so recent, and the pain still feels as sharp as it always did. When I was younger, I grew closer with a childhood friend called Shah. At around our teenage years, he dropped out of school, and we lost contact with each other. Years later, we met later by chance, and we were blessed with the opportunity to rekindle our relationship. I couldn't tell something was wrong, but in the back of my mind, I wanted an explanation for the sudden loss in contact. We began dating shortly after, and if I'm honest, the question never really left my mind, but it never became a huge concern of mine. Because we had known each other's families prior to our dating, it was easy to get to know each other once again, so everything progressed quite nicely. However, one day, he confided in me about his mental health problems. He dropped out of school because of it. I was obviously concerned, but back in those days, mental health wasn't the huge issue it is now. We had no way of understanding it, and his parents never truly grasped the severity of his depression. I wanted to do everything in my power to make sure he was okay, but he continuously reassured me that he was healing. And I guess I was stupid enough to believe that. Skip forward a few months, we are engaged and due to be wed soon. And I was going through a bit of a crisis myself. I became very spiteful and self-doubting and second-guessing myself all the time. I felt very confined in our relationship. I was always the more outgoing one, whereas he preferred our own company. I don't know, I just felt like I could do so much more, and this relationship was confining me. We got into a little argument, basically letting all of our problems and insecurities with each other fly. And I stormed out, went to stay with my parents. I didn't fully understand just how much of an anchor I was to him, how much he relied on me to keep going. He overdosed on some pills later that week, and I never got the opportunity to see him after the argument. I didn't know how much he needed me. At the funeral and the days that came after, people kept trying to comfort me, supporting me, reassuring me that he loved me more than anything, and that I was what kept him from doing it earlier than he did. And I didn't know how to tell them that it was me. I fucked up his life. I was meant to be the one thing that supported him no matter what, and I failed him. I'm not saying this keeps me up every night. For the most part, I've made my peace with it. I've tried to distance myself from that time, but sometimes, just thinking about what I did leaves this painful feeling in my throat, and my chest feels like it's going to close up. I've never confessed this in real life, and I don't know if I have the strength to do so and come clean. Now for the next story. One night stand confession is keeping me up at night. We had been chatting for a couple weeks. Conversation was light, but thoughtful. I knew that he was troubled going into it. What can I say? I guess I like sad men. I invite him on a day of driving around listening to old CDs in my car. He had just moved back to town from Toronto right before the pandemic. The date is going brilliantly. He's smart, handsome, open, and we are both hanging off every word shared between us. He shares some pretty traumatic experiences. For starters, he had a brain injury half a decade ago, which he cannot remember, just that he woke in a hospital. He then goes on to tell me that he is in town to help his parents look after his nephew as his sister died of breast cancer a couple years ago, which I found admirable. The date goes on, and we decide to have a drink in a park and keep chatting. As the sun is setting, things heat up, and I feel very drawn to him. We decide to go back to my place, where we became intimate. He struggled to stay hard. Not really an issue or red flag on a first date. I haven't been intimate in a long time, and I get that it takes time to be fully comfortable with someone. He starts working on my tits, which I love. But then I realize it's more of a comfort for him when he falls asleep sucking on my tits like a baby. Even this isn't really a flag. I have large breasts, so I do attract men that have that type of fetish. But still, it needs to be discussed because I have comfort levels too. It was impossible to sleep. He kept me up all night sleep talking and having night terrors. At one point he said no grandpa, and I nearly had a heart attack. In the morning he admits that he has to confess something to me. That he had hesitations about going out with me. That I look identical to his dead sister, whom he is still mourning. She passed away a couple years ago. He said that might be the reason he wasn't able to finish the night before. As the morning unfolds, he also admits that recreational sex is not something that interests him, and he views sex as a form of procreation mostly. Not as weird, but still worth noting. I found her obituary online, and it is uncanny. She looks just like me. Same build, features. Even her hair is styled like mine. She studied something similar, and left behind a son almost my son's age. I feel pretty haunted by all this. It's been a couple days, and I'm still having trouble shaking this off. I haven't reached out to him, and I plan not to. It's been nearly a year since I've taken a lover, and I'm thinking maybe I need better screening. Now for the next story. I cheated my way through all of high school, but am succeeding in college. In high school, I discovered that many of the teacher logins had default passwords. I used this to my advantage and was able to lodge interview teachers' tests if they had uploaded it to their school desktops. Of course, not all teachers did this, so sometimes I had to genuinely study. I usually pulled an A or B. Teachers thought I was the quiet kid, so they'd sometimes leave me alone in their classroom because they'd trust me, and I'd take photos of their physical exams. In my senior year, however, one of my teachers caught on and became suspicious. He kept pressing me with questions in class and I wouldn't know any of them, and I had a high grade in the class, obviously because I was cheating. I had every exam, because I had the login of a teacher who had the exams, and so he told me he's watching me on the next exam, but we never took the exam, because quarantine rolled around, and I never saw him again. Haha. It was actually pretty ironic how he was the only teacher who caught on, as I had many other intelligent teachers who did not suspect a thing, and this teacher I had was quite the ditz. Right now, I'm at a prestigious university, and I'm actually studying and using honest techniques to maintain my high GPA, so I guess this story is not wholly immoral. Now for the next story. I messed up. So, my friend, 21F, has a Tumblr that she uses to post outfits she wears, aesthetic things she likes, etc. However, she likes to keep that part separate from her main life. She's told me, 20 meters, about it, but I never looked at it, because that was her thing. I had an account, but I only used it to find drawing references for cloths and such. Well, one of her posts comes across me homepage and I recognize it, because she sent me that outfit. I went to leave a comment, but started overthinking about how it was her space. I still wanted to say something, so I made a second account, and complimented her on that. She took the compliment, then messaged me on my main saying how she figured out it was me, and that she had one rule: don't message anonymously, and I broke that rule. I apologized profusely, but we didn't talk for almost a week after that. I thoroughly apologized this morning, through text, because she moved a state away, and she told me that I made her feel uncomfortable in her space, and that I broke her trust by trying to be anonymous, because she's very worrisome about who views her page. She didn't end the friendship of over 6 years, but she was obviously disappointed. I want her trust back. Not being able to talk to my best friend has been torture, and I miss her. I care so much about her, and AI has no ill intent, but I still ended up hurting her. I feel like such an awful friend, and I fear I just potentially ruined my only really close friendship. Now for the next story. Married the wrong person for 28 plus years ago. I have been in love with my soulmate for 30 years. He happens to be my cousin. We broke it off in college 29 years ago. His mother hated me, still does, so we didn't have any options. For me it hurt so bad I dropped out of school and married the first person that somewhat filled the gaping hole left in my soul, which in the long run only made the hole larger and more painful. I married someone I didn't really love. Because of family pressures, the man I married was abusive, physically, sexually, and emotionally. It took me forever to see my way out of it. A few years ago my soulmate and I got back in touch with one another. It brought me out of that extremely dark hole I was in. I can never thank him enough for reminding me I have worth. I don't think I would ever want him to leave his wife. My ex did that to me many years ago, and I would never wish that pain on anyone. He knows how tough things have been for me and keeps trying to help me find a man worthy of me. Now that covered is over, I hope I can. I'm afraid of making the same mistake I made last time and just going after the first guy I think fills a void. Why can't things be easy? Why can't you be with people you love without consequences? Why do we make such stupid choices in our youth? Now for the next story. I've never had a girlfriend, and I'm turning 28 in a month. I haven't even held hands with one. Bro, that's kind of weird. I understand this is the internet, so it's not weird here, but in real life I can't help but think I'm kind of a failure at the whole relationship thing. I've been randomly finding myself thinking about growing old alone, leaving nothing behind. No legacy. I've mentally tried to better myself. I bought the self-help books, and I do the things. I don't think I'm unattractive physically, but mentally I have no confidence. It's not like I haven't tried. I know the sample size is small, but I've tried 5 times with women that I got to know really well. I really liked them, and each time it's just I only like you as a friend. What is that? Each time I feel more and more dejected, and it takes me a really long time to get over it. I've tried the whole friends thing, but it's really hard, so I just go away. I know I'm not perfect, but no one is. I don't get what's wrong with me. I thought my 20s were supposed to be the best time of my life. Thank you so much for watching the video. Have an amazing day.